So these are the contents. First, I will introduce what is the arthritis, then the two major types of the arthritis or the forms of arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis. We will discuss these two types of arthritis. What are they and what are their causes? What is the, etiology, differential diagnosis, signs and symptoms related to all, all related problems or the aspects of these two types. Exercise consideration, what type of patient we will consider for the exercise and which conditions we will consider for the exercise, and rehabilitative management, then actual what we will do for the management, and lastly exercise therapy. Okay, so the arthritis is the inflammation of one or the more joints. Simply, the literal mean of the arthritis is the inflammation of a joint. Either it could be a one, or it could be a more than one, or it could be a multiple. Okay, so next, the classification. Classification is a very broad, or the arthritic classification is very versatile. I have seen many type of classification on the behalf of the joint involvement, like you can say the polyarthritis, monoarthritis, oligoarthritis means the number of, means on the behalf of or on the basis of the number of the joints involvement, as well as the reactive arthritis, arthritis associated with the psoriasis, or the, you can say, psoriatic arthritis, polyarthritis, juvenile arthritis, or the gout, or itself it's called the gout arthritis, in which the uric acid increase and some kidney issues has been shown. So there are multiple types of, or you can say that there are there are 10 classifications of the arthritis, but the major three ones are, the most common three one are the inflammatory arthritis, infectious arthritis, and metabolic arthritis on the behalf or on the basis of their causes. Inflammatory arthritis due to the inflammation, obviously, as name shows, and the infectious arthritis due to any kind of infectious, and metabolic due to the any metabolic disease. The arthritis will be called the arthritic arthritis. Metabolic arthritis. But our today's domain is rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis. We will discuss these two, rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis, in detail, because these two types of arthritis are, or the forms of arthritis. These are not the types, actually, these are the forms of the arthritis which are common in our society, and as well as according to the demand of your study guide. These two arthritis we will discuss further in some detail. Okay, so rheumatoid arthritis, I hope that the definitions, at least you have already known with these terms, or with these definitions, you are already familiar. RA is a chronic inflammatory disease. Yes, it's a chronic inflammatory disease. The simplest or the literal definition of the osteoarthritis. It's an autoimmune disorder, means the own body cells against work against the of the own immunity, or the own cells, or the own defense system. RA, or the rheumatoid arthritis, as well as is a symmetrical arthritis. Symmetrical arthritis means involves simultaneously two joints of the similar body area. Similar body area means if the upper limb is involved, that means the hands of the upper limb of both will be involved in the rheumatoid arthritis. That type of arthritis is known as the rheumatoid arthritis. Inflammation of the disease, number one thing. Second thing is a symmetrical arthritis. Both sides of the joints will be involved. Now the third point is autoimmune disorder. We get 3 points from this slide. Rheumatoid arthritis, the cause is unknown. Still, researchers are doing work and are trying to find out the actual cause of the rheumatoid arthritis. But right now, or till time, you can say that the cause or the etiology is unknown. But the most common cause, the age in which the rheumatoid arthritis has occurred is the age of 31 to 40 or the 50. This is the research. I have taken this graph from the Indian research. This answer or the result shows that the 31 to 50, or somewhere I have seen the 45 till 45, this is the middle age, where because the population has different uh, results in the different countries according to their lifestyle and according to their diet routine and all that. So the 31 to 50, you can say, the largely this age limit or this age bracket has shown the greater amount of the rheumatoid arthritis or the severe rheumatoid arthritis, or the occurrence was very common in this age population. Rheumatoid arthritis, sadly, are again is very common in the women as compared to the men, 3 times greater in the women as compared to the men, due to the maybe the low immunity and at certain levels, and some physiological changes which is different from the men. That's why you can say the women are more prone towards the rheumatoid arthritis, 3 times more prone than the men. What is the criteria in which we can diagnose the rheumatoid arthritis? Number one thing, differential diagnosis you can make on purely on the clinical basis, right? Clinical basis means on the basis of the signs and symptoms. There are many arthritis that resemble with each other, but you can differentially diagnose by the signs and symptoms. And the sign and symptoms or the criteria according to the ACR, American College of the Rheumatology, which has been given in 1987, that morning stiffness that will last an hour or more than an hour or more than 30 minutes is a typical sign of the rheumatoid arthritis. If someone or if any patient complains to you that I have a morning stiffness when I wake up in the morning, I feel joints and in a symmetrical manner, and that lasts more than 30 minutes or an hour. But when I used to do different my home core activities, it resolves. So this is the statement which is commonly used by the patient, and that is a typical sign, you can say, that the patient might be having the rheumatoid arthritis. Arthritis is 3 or more joint areas. It involves the multiple joints, not a single joint, and symmetrical joints. Upper limb, if there's an involvement of upper limb, so that means not in the right side as well as on the left side of the joints will also involve. Arthritis of the hand joints, swelling joints, greater than 1 swelling joints, which are very common, which are very commonly observable, that the small joints of the hands majorly affected by rheumatoid arthritis. So again, this is the criteria that if anyone has the arthritis of the joints, that means you have suspect that the person might have the rheumatoid arthritis. Symmetric arthritis, as I told you earlier, the both limbs or the both joints of the both sides or the paired joints will be involved in this arthritis. Rheumatoid nodules. In the small joints, the nodules will appear. You will that nodules are very visible, and you can easily see, or you can easily palpate. So the rheumatoid nodules, again, a typical sign of the rheumatoid arthritis. Sera RF, or the rheumatic factor. Rheumatic factor is a protein, is the immunoglobulin, which is very commonly seen by the CBC or by the testing of the blood in the serum. So if RF is also present, it means that a rheumatic factor is also present in the serum. That means the rheumatoid arthritis is again susceptible. Okay, so radiological changes, erosions or the X-rays of the hands. So you can also get help from the radiological findings if you have already done the X-rays or some other radiological see, or you can easily find out that the person is having the rheumatoid arthritis or not. So these are the typical criteria, or you can say this is the approved gold standard criteria of diagnosing rheumatoid arthritis on the basis of the signs and symptoms according to the ACR, which has given in 1987, American College of Rheumatology. Signs and symptoms: morning stiffness, difficulty in the movement upon the awakening, generalized stiffness, anorexia, weight loss, and the fatigue. These are the common signs and symptoms. Patient will complain about these problems that he is having. Systemic manifestation. Other than these typical signs and symptoms and the criteria, what other problems we can see in the rheumatic patient or in the rheumatoid arthritis? Because it's a systemic disease, it's a systemic involvement disease. So system will involve throughout the manifestation of the disease. Number one thing is the joint involvement. As it's a joint disease, so typically the joint will involve, and joint will be immobile due to the secondary to the pain, or secondary to the hesitation of that if I will mobile or if I will do some activity that will cause my pain. So due to this fear or due to this phobia, immobility will occur, and immobility will lead to the contractures, muscular tightness, and as well as bony changes. Inflammation, definitely, arthralgia, joint pains, and the crepitus. Crepitus sounds, some whistling sounds will appear when the patient, or when you you will diagnose with the physical. You can easily hear the crepitus, but in the in the moderate to severe conditions, not in the early condition, or you can say in the acute conditions. Cervical spine, how the cervical spine will affect C1 and C2 is the major portion that will affect by the RA, and which is a fatal, which is a quite dangerous. If C1 and C2 involve, it might torn surrounding ligaments. So that's why you can say the cervical spine C1, C2 involves, that is a quite dangerous stage or the condition. You have to treat, or you have to manage that part quickly and gently with the appropriate treatment and appropriate management. Of course, range of motion will be decreased due to the immobility, due to the pain, arthralgia, torn of the transverse ligaments of the atlas. Yes, atlas ligament, the transverse ligaments of the atlas, there are chances of the torning or the torsion of the transverse ligament of the atlas, which is why I said that this is the most dangerous or can be lethal. So you have to be careful about it, and you have to treat or manage accordingly. Ankylosing spondylitis. And what is ankylosing spondylitis? It's the inflammation of the vertebra, SI joint, sacroiliac joint, spinal facets, costovertebral joint. These all joints will initially inflame, and then after after inflammation stage, ankylosing means they fuse together. The bones will fuse together, and which is again the second stage of the arthritis, which is harmful, which is vigorous, which is severe. That means the patient now is totally unable or completely unable to perform any physical activity, and due to that, secondary complications will overcome like the muscular contractures, muscle weakness, as well as the loss of the functions. Temporomandibular joint is also involved in this. Complain you that I am unable or unable to open the mouth, or I am not able to complete opening of and that means the normal opening of the mouth. Abnormal approximation of the upper and the lower teeth. Obviously, if the TMJ is not proper, or you can say is not at the place, is not on the normal axis and plane, that means the approximation of the teeth may be not normal. So this kind of, again, the complaint you can get from the patient. Shoulder, glenohumeral, all these shoulder complex, all the joints of the glenohumeral, acromioclavicular joint, or the your glenohumeral joint, these all will involve in the rheumatoid arthritis. These all will be go into the degenerative changes, and patient might complain that I am unable to move or do activity that allow these joints. So degeneration is very common, pain, loss of the range of motion, tendinitis, surrounding tendons may get inflammation. Elbows inflammation is very common again, joint surface erosion, instability, flexion contracture. Obviously, if the person will not move their body part or the elbow, simply the flexion contractures or the antagonists or the flexor surface of the muscles will get contracted. Systemic manifestations, other than that, wrist will involve, and the greatly wrist and feet involve. Wrist flexion contracture, subluxation of the wrist, and Dequarium diseases or the disease. Flexion contracture is very common, again, due to the inability to move or due to the, you can say, due to the because surrounding ligaments may be get affected due to this. So that's why subluxation of the ulna and subluxation of the radius is very common. In the RA, patient will complain you that the angle of joint has been changed, or the bone or the joint is most prominent now. So you can that will be easily visible, or the patient will complain you. So the last one, that disease or the deformity we find or we found in the wrist is the Dequarium disease. What is the Dequarium disease? Is the irritation of the tendon sheath, the inflammation of the tendon sheath, right, at the thumb level. At the thumb level, this sheath or the superficial sheath of the carpal bone get inflamed. That is why it is called the Dequarium syndrome, or as well as it is very common in the in today's texting disorders, or you can say the persons who are continuously texting or typing the messages, or in a greater time, or you can say giving them more time on the texting, so they are also getting this problem. Hand and joints, metacarpophalangeal drift deformity, swan neck deformity, and Botanier deformity. These are the very common in the hand. I'll explain you what are these deformities which are occurring in the hands. But first, just listen the terms, or just memorize these terms, that in hands, metacarpophalangeal drift deformity is occurring, swan neck is having, and as well as the Botanier deformity is having. In the hip, trochanteric bursitis, bursa will inflamed, trochanteric bursa will get inflammation, femoral head and acetabulum inflammation, less commonly involved in the RA. So just keep in mind that inflammation of the bursa, inflammation of the joint, and as well as the contractures, flexion contractures are common. These are the, you can, if you make the list of these problems, so these problems are very common. Other than just few, or just like the hand joints, in this area or in this part, the deformities are different. Otherwise, the in the whole systems or in the whole body, at every joint, the problems are very common, like the bursitis, tendinitis, inflammation, loss of function, flexion contractures. These types of problems are very common. So if you make the list, so you can easily write the umbrella of any joint. So knees, painful knees again, severely involved, flex deformity, flexion deformity, ankle feet, calcaneus spur is very common. The spur or the extra growth of the bone will occur at the calcaneus. Metatarsalgia, the pain in the metatarsals. Hallux valgus, the lateral movement of the big toe of the foot. Hammer toes, I'll show you what are these. So I have told you earlier that hand joints in which the metacarpophalangeal drift deformity will occur, swan neck deformity will occur, and Botanier deformity will occur. So what are these? These are the ulnar deviation, or you can say the metacarpophalangeal drift, in which what is happening, metacarpophalangeal joints is shifting, is changing, is diverting from the normal position. So this is the common ulnar deviation, or as well as you can say the metacarpophalangeal drift. So this picture, hope so, is clear for everyone that what is the metacarpophalangeal drift, or you can say this is the deformity of hand in the rheumatoid arthritis. So bilateral involvement Okay. So there is a bilateral involvement, both hands are involved. Now the second hand deformity is the swan neck deformity. Swan neck deformity. What is the swan neck deformity? This is the swan neck deformity. This is the swan neck deformity in which the DIP joints bands or get into the flexion, or the PIP joint will go into the hyperextension. So this is the abnormal kind of shape, or you can say the structure will made. So this is the swan neck deformity, and patient might uh, do complain, or you can easily see the deformity as well. And the third one, or the third hand deformity, is the botanier deformity. What is the botanier deformity? Is similar to the swan neck, but the difference is PIP joint will go into the flexion and DIP into the hyperextension, right? PIP joint will go into the flexion, DIP joint will go into the hyper. This is the DIP joint will go into the hyperextension and the flexion. So this is again the abnormal condition. This is again the abnormal shape, abnormal alignment of the joint or the structure. So that's why it caused a lot of pain, inflammation, loss of function, and obviously cosmetically it's not acceptable that our joints or the fingers go in these type of shapes. So these are the hand deformities. Otherwise, the basic terms were clear to all of you. The feet deformity, hallus valgus, and the hammer toes. These are the deformities which are common in the feet in the rheumatic patients. So, or in the arthritic patients. This is the hallus valgus, in which the big toe will go or will shift or will move towards the lateral side. So this type of appearance will show, and the hammer toe, in which your small toes will go like a hammer shape, will shift or change towards the hammer toe shape. So this is the hammer toe, which is common again joint in the joint diseases, or especially in the rheumatoid arthritis or the RA. So hope so these deformities are clear to you, that what kind of appearance it is and what basically joints are involved in these deformities. Okay, other than that, muscles and tendons will also get affected. Muscular atrophy is very common and has been seen in every patient almost. Muscle weakness, obviously, due to the unknown mechanism. There is no such any mechanism has been find out, or you can say is obvious or is not present in the theoretical literature, that what are the causes behind the muscle involvement, muscular atrophy, and muscular weakness related to the tenosynovitis or the tendon inflammation is again the common, and the cause or the mechanism is unknown, that how and what the physiological, what the pathological, what the pathophysiological changes is occurring in the body, and due to that the muscle and tendon is going to inflame. So the mechanism is still unknown, but these are the problems that again reported among the RA patients. And this is a chart for those who are who wanted to study more, because it's a systemic involvement inside systemic involvement, and means that internal viscera, internal body organs, how they are getting affected, internal systems are physiological system, how they are getting affected. This is the extra chart, but I found it useful, so I that's why I put in my presentation. If you want to study after that, after my class, you can easily study. Some musculoskeletal problems are common and which are also given. Otherwise, other than that, like the pleural effusion, lymphatic nodes, or the adenopathies, amyloidosis. So these are the, again, you can learn by your own, because it's not the part of my literature. Laboratory test. What kind of laboratory test you can perform for the help in the diagnosis? elevated ESR when you perform when you check the ESR rate, so it would be elevated. CRP would be elevated. CBC shows anemia. Synovial fluid analysis. Synovial fluid will be more viscous in the normal condition. It's not as viscous as in the RA. So the viscosity will increase, as well as the crystal be present in the RA. Radiographic changes will show the hallmark difference, like the alignment. As you can see, the alignment is changed. So the bone density and surface, bone may be show you thicker and the more denser. The cartilaginous space or the spacing between the joints or the cartilaginous spacing will might show you decrease, or that space get decreased. So these are the radiographic findings that you have to check in your film X-ray before diagnosing anyone with the RA. Classification of the progression of the rheumatoid arthritis. So classification of the progression of the rheumatoid arthritis, how we can say that this is the early stage, this is the moderate, severe, or terminal, or you can say from the least to the greatest, or from the lightest to the vigorous, or from the bottom to the top. So early stage patient might will come to you at the early stage. No destructive changes or the meta. Okay. It's not visible to me. So no destructive changes will be seen in the early patient, and radiographic evidence, no radiographic evidence will be seen, but you can only diagnose on the behalf of the CBC and some serological tests, as well as the patient's complaint and physical examination. Moderate, now the radiographic evidences also will show to you some changes, as well as some other deformities, and from the moderate to the severe, again the deformities or all the you can say the criteria will go even worse. The diagnostic criteria will go even worse and obvious, and the terminal stage, all the criteria will meet, and the fibrous or the hard tissue will found at the end. So these are the basic progression classification, that how it progresses and how a patient will come to you, and how you have to find out the problem on the either on the radiographic changes, either on the other tests. But it's not mandatory that you have found all the symptoms at a time, or you can say the typical patient will found you found a typical patient, like every problem is present in it, or you can say that he's complaining everything related to the rheumatoid arthritis. So early stage, moderate, severe, and terminal stages are different. You have to focus on these as well before diagnosing and before managing the problem. How does it feel? Stiff joint that feel worse in the morning, obviously, and that stiffness lasts more than 30 minutes or 1 hour, and after doing some ADS, that will ease, and patient will say that after some physical activity, I used to get less pain and more physical activity. Pain and swelling in the joints, obviously bouts of the fatigue, fever, loss of the joint functions, redness, warmth, and the tenderness in the joint areas. These are again this slide or these complaints or the problems or the signs and symptoms again repeating. So I'm just going forward. So the next is the osteoarthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is ended here. Now the second form of the arthritis is the osteoarthritis, again, which is the very common. Osteoarthritis is a non-inflammatory but a degenerative arthritis. It's a non-inflammatory but degenerative arthritis, mainly based on the age factor and the lifestyle factor, or as well as the trauma or the injury of the joints. Every person or one in a four may develop hip OA in their lifetime. Until the age 50, women and men are affected equally. After the age 50, the female or the women are more prone to get osteoarthritis than the men. Okay, so these are Osteoarthritis, the major factor that contributing in the cause of the osteoarthritis or that can boost the osteoarthritis, the age. First of all, is the age. The genetic factors, some genes, some like the HLA is involved in the production or in the creation or in the causing of the osteoarthritis. Post-injury or the trauma again is a common cause of the osteoarthritis, or you can say the factor or the risk factor that involves in the osteoarthritis. Occupation, the person's or the patient, the occupation in which the person doing long standings or long sittings or a particular posture, adapting a particular posture for a long period of time. So it is commonly seen in those patients or the persons that certain occupation is also causing the osteoarthritis. Sports, again, sports is responsible for the demineralization at certain stage, at certain level. So again, sports is also causing the osteoarthritis, especially in the females. It is also includes in the female athlete triad. Hope so you do know that what is the female athlete triad. Obesity is again after the age the largest factor or the biggest factor that causing the osteoarthritis. So these are the factors and these are the as well as the causes of the osteoarthritis. The best way to prevent the onset of the OA is to choose the healthy lifestyle, avoid the obesity, and particularly in the regular exercises. These are the preventions. Preventions are always better than cure. So guide your patient or your locality that the better lifestyle or the healthy lifestyle, with the healthy lifestyle you can avoid or you can prevent the osteoarthritis. Criteria. According to the Kellgren and the Lawrence, there is a criteria of diagnosing of the OA. No radiological finding, doubtful. This is the criteria, and as well as again, this is the progressing stage. How it is going to worsen, how it is going to increase, or how it is going to showing the changes. So no radiographical findings in the 0 grade or in the 0 stage, doubtful narrowing in the 1, and the definite osteophytes in the 2, moderate multiple osteophytes in the 3, and the large osteophytes marked in the grade 4. So this is the grading from again simplest to the most complex one. So patient may be come to you at any stage, and you have to manage or treat the patient accordingly and send for the and as well as send for the tests and measures. Joint stiffness less than 30 minutes. In the RA, that was more than 30 minutes, and as well as for an hour. But joint stiffness less than 30 minutes. Crepitus, bony enlargement, bony tenderness, no palpable warmth. These are the typical clinical classification or criteria or the sign and symptoms. On the behalf of that, you can check, you can find out, you can examine, or you can ultimately label the patient as a OA. OA, how does it feel? Stiffness in the joint, sitting, lying down in the long periods of the time, pain during the active that is achieved by the rest, cracking, crunching, or other type of the joint noise. Obviously, because it's a degenerative disease, degeneration or destruction of the cartilage, and ultimately then joint, and which causing the cracking or the crunching sounds, which cause to produce the cracking or crunching sounds. So pain when you press on the joint, when you palpate the joint, when you press the joint, it's a typical sign that patient will showing you a jumping sign, or patient will tell you that I'm feeling a severe pain. Increased bone growth around the joint that you may be able to feel, or you can see through the radiograph. Increased bone growth. Bone will get destruction, go into the destruction, as well as the abnormal bony growth like the spurs or the spikes of the bones. So these kind of changes will show in the rheumatoid arthritis. So now the Exercise consideration. What kind of patients you will get into the consideration for the exercise? Not every person is have needed exercise because of their severe symptoms, or you can say the severe conditions. Because in both RA or in OA, at the end stages, patient get very much fragile bones. So for exercise, you can break or you can fracture the bones. That's why what kind of patients you can consider for the exercise if you have no damage in the weight-bearing joints, like in the large joints and the knee joints or in the hip joint. So in the large, if you have no any damage, any wear and tear, or you can say that the mild level of the wear and tear is occurred, in these conditions, you can easily refer your patient for the exercise or the physical therapy or the exercise therapy. No reason you couldn't participate in a high intensity exercise such as the aerobics and the jogging. You can easily recommend patients, or you can fearlessly recommend patients to the aerobics and for the jogging if there is a bearable weight loss, or you can say bearable joint damage is having. If you have damage in the lower extremities, then no jogging or the hard aerobics. Obviously, it will give you the idea that when you will send to patients for the exercise and when not, if the joints are highly affected, if the joints are more, or the bones are more fragile, so or easily get fatigued. So that means these are the signs, or these are the typical conditions in which you will not prefer to send any person for the exercise. If it's the upper extremity exercise that involve these joints, such as the boxing and having or the heavy weightlifting. So these type of exercises again contraindicated in those patients who are having the upper extremity joints involvement. Again, listen to your joints, what they are saying. If they are healthy, so or healthy or less diseased, so you can easily refer to exercise for the to prevent the secondary complications like the muscular contractures, like flexion contractures, like muscle strength, endurance, to gain the muscle strength, endurance, power, to regain or to maintain all the components of the healthy muscle and bone. You have to listen your joint and then refer to the exercise. Rehabilitative management. Arthritis is the chronic progressive disease. Okay, RA is a systemic disease. Rehabilitative management. So rehabilitation of the individual with the arthritis requires intense and coordinated effort of the variety of the health professionals, including the physical therapist. Of course, as I told you, that rehabilitation is a multidisciplinary approach. There are multiple, or there are a number of field experts involved in this rehabilitative management, and every person has their own domain, and in their own domain they will work with the patient, and just like the physical therapist. Physical therapy examination, I will examine physically to patient, like history, take the history, brief history, medical history, personal history, professional history. Someone's mic is left open. Someone's mic is left open. Can you please off the mic? Okay, thank you. So physical therapy examination, first take the brief history of like medical history, personal history, professional history, genetic history, as well as pain, location, duration, intensity, obviously, as well as according to the examination, inflammation, heat, erythema, swelling, morning stiffness, previous level of the activity, and the degree of the fatigue. Okay, these are the common or the typical physical examination that we have to do before prescribing the exercise, or before diagnosing the or any rheumatological disease. Range of motion we have to check. After that, degree of the fatigue, the range of the motion again is limited range of motion in both arthritis. So we have to check the range of motion. Muscular strength by applying some resistance on the patient's body area, where we have to check the strength. So by applying some resistance, we can easily recognize the muscle strength, joint stability, either joint is stable or not, which also tells you the health of the ligaments, either the ligaments are involved or not, either the tendons are involved or not. So the joint stability to check, joint stability is important to check. Endurance, muscular endurance, how much patient is able to doing the repeated exercises or repeated physical activity without getting fatigued. This is called the endurance. So, we have to check the muscular endurance of the patient. Functional examination, what kind of functions or the physical activity person is able to do and what kind of not. Mobility and the gait, obviously, how much patient is mobile. There are multiple types of the mobility: in-bed mobility, out-bed mobility, out-room mobility. So what kind of mobility a patient has or the patient can easily perform. The gait pattern, because of the large joints or the lower limb involvement, the gait pattern or the walking pattern of the patient has changed. So that's why we have to analyze the gait as well, because physical therapists work on all of these parameters. Sensory integrity, you have to check because systemic involvement is in the rheumatoid arthritis, so neurological seen in those patients. So that's why it's mandatory to see the sensory integrity. The sensation is normal or not. For that, we have the multiple methods to check the sensory integrity, like the 2-point discrimination, like needle and pin pricking. So these are the used for the to check the sensory integration. Psychological status. Psychological status, obviously, patient might be in anxiety, mood swing problem. So you have to check the psychological status or the state of mind as well by just having the conversation with him or her, or by just having some talk. Physical therapy interventions, what kind of intervention, or you can say the treatment physical therapist will perform. So intervention will be decrease the pain. The first intervention or the aim of the physical therapist or any rehabilitative persons or rehabilitative therapist is to decrease the pain. Now for the decreasing of pain, we have many things, like we have the cold packs, hot packs, and as well as some analgesics. And we have many literatures and many researches that shows that the effects for the joints and for the body simply. So the main is to decrease the pain, increase and maintain the range of motion by passive movements or by active movement. Passive movement is the movement that performed by the therapist or performed by any other or external body force other than patient itself. And what is the active range of motion? Active range of motion is the movement performed by itself patient. So increase or maintain the range of motion of all joints either by the active or by the passive range of motion if the patient is able, or the stage is initial. So you can ask the patients to perform active range of motion. If not, then perform the passive range of motion, means by physical therapist or by any other person or by you simply. So increase or maintain the muscle strength. Muscle strength, how we will maintain the muscle strength? By the resistive exercises, by performing some stretching exercises, resisted exercises. Simply we give the patients to some weight and will ask him or her to lift that weight or carry that weight. So that's why, or by this strategy, we can simply increase or maintain the muscle strength. Increase the joint stability and decrease the biomechanical stress. How we can increase the joint stability? For that, we can get help from the orthotics or prosthesis. PNO, that is called in the short form PNO. PNO or the prosthesis or orthotics, they made some modalities or some external body parts that useful for getting help, like braces or like some other jackets. They are helpful in providing the stability or the support and the and reducing biomechanical strength or the stress. Someone is texting. Okay. There are some questions. There are a few questions, but I'll give you answer at the end. So once that finish this lecture, then I'll answer you all. Improve the gait pattern, promote the mobility, and increase the endurance. Endurance means by repetitive exercises or repeatedly exercises. Same type of exercises you perform with greater repetition, 10 times, 20 times. Those students or those persons who used to go to gym, they know what I am talking about, the endurance. So same type of exercise, if you repeatedly perform, that will improve your endurance. Promote the mobility, improve the gait pattern. Mobility by giving some aid. If the patient is unable to walk independently due to the contractures or due to the less strength, if he's not able to maintain the base of support, or the strength is not enough to achieve any physical activity or any target activity, so you have some options of giving the mobility aid, like the canes, crutches, and the walkers. These are the modalities, or these are the supporting aids, supporting tools that we give to the patient to promote the mobility and to support in the mobility. Improve the gait pattern. Again, when you give the aids, it ultimately the patient will mobile and increase and improve the gait pattern as well. Improve a journal health by fitness. Those patients who are in the early stage of the arthritis changes, you must have to guide them that they can do light exercises like the jogging, walking, aerobics, some gym activities, some a treadmill, walk, and these kind of activities, some aerobics that improve not in the fitness, not the physical health as well, also the cardiac endurance or the cardiac fitness or the cardiac health as well. So cardiac health is equally important like the physical health, as this is very common thing, but I have mentioned here. So improve the journal health by modifying their lifestyle. Adapting the healthy lifestyle, modifying their lifestyle if the lifestyle is not healthy, and by doing exercise. So you can get fitness as well, physical fitness as well as the cardiac fitness. So teach self-management, how to shift yourself from one position to another position, how to change the exercise from the lighter to the vigorous, and how to counsel the patient. Basically, it's the management as well as the counseling part is also included in the management or the self-management. So you have to teach or you have to counsel the patient that this is not the thing that cannot be resolved. Also, these kind of supporting or the helping words or the sentences can help the patient to recover early or recover soon. So modalities for the pain relief, as I told you earlier in the previous slides, that heat and cold produces the localized analgesia. So we recommend patients to the heat and cold, but there is a difference that when we will give the heat and then we will prefer to give the hot packs, because in the later stages, in the chronic stages, when there is the inflammation is huge, where the redness or the cardinal signs of the inflammation is on the peak, you cannot apply the hot packs because it may be aggravate or increase the symptoms or the pain or simply the discomfort of the patient. So in that stage of the inflammation and the inflammation signs, the cardinal feature signs of the inflammation are acute. So you'll prefer to go towards the cold pack rather than the hot packs. And similarly, after the hot pack and cold pack, we have the TENS, transcutaneous electric stimulation. TENS is a machine which is work on the gait pain theory. That is also a reliable source, or you can say also helpful in managing or decreasing the pain. Moist hot pack and dry hot pack lamps. There are multiple lamps, infrared lamps that are now omitted, but it was because I included because it was included in your literature, so that's why I added on. But in practically, we do not use lamps nowadays. These are basically the red light lamps or the infrared lamps, which helpful again for the managing the pain. but that was the previous theory or the previous concept. Now we do not use, because the latest research shows that there is no impact of these lamps or the lights on the pain or the circulation, or improving the symptoms, right? So paraffin and hydrotherapy. Paraffin is the wax. Paraffin wax we can use for the improvement of the blood circulation. As you know that if the blood circulation will increase, that inflammation and other symptoms will reduce. Cells. Hydrotherapy is a water therapy. Those patients who are very fragile, very weak, who cannot perform the exercises on the land or on the ground, they can perform exercises under the water, because as we know that under the water we have less weight than the land. Almost 40 to 50% weight reduces under the water. So that's why under the water you have chances and you have the more capacity to perform different type of exercises, exercises of those patients who are critically ill, terminally ill, or you can say are in the advanced age. So the TENS is again, orthosis provide the local rest as well as maintain your alignment, give cosmetic effect. So orthosis is also we can use. Joint mobility, teach proper positioning, how we can improve the joint mobility. As I told you earlier, that teach the positioning, how you have to sit, how you have to get off from the chair, how you have to move from the bed to the chair, and from the chair to the washroom. Make sure that railing are present everywhere in the washroom, washroom and in the room. Some modifications. These are the common modifications that that made in these patients or in these kind of patients, because due to the poor control or the loss of the functions, patient might have the chances of fall and get fractured. So that's why the proper positioning, proper modification in the rooms or in the washrooms or in the area where they are living is very mandatory or very essential. Follow the neurophysiological principles or the stretching and stretching. Stretching also improve your mobility, like the lengthening and the shortening of muscle. If you perform the opposite function of any muscle, like I'm stretching the flexors into the extension state, so it will stretched out, and that stretching will trigger to boost the GTOs, Golgi tendon organs, and some physiological reactions and processes will occur. Hope so you have the idea and you have the knowledge, background knowledge of the physiology. So by stretching, some physiological reactions will occur, and due to that, mobility will increase. So this is the common exercise or the common type of exercise that physical therapists perform to increase the joint mobility. Manual therapy, this is the umbrella term. Manual therapy is a huge field itself, I can say, or I must say, because manual therapy, there are procedures, methods, and types of the manual therapy that we perform to improve the mobility. And there are a number of scientists, researchers have introduced their own techniques by their names. So manual therapy is a therapy that I'm giving you the little introduction that manual therapy is the therapy that we perform. Mean of manual by applying different kind of pressures, and as well as stretching of joints. So the strengthening we can perform by what is happening there? Okay, I'll give you the answers at the end. Just keep asking the questions. Whatever is coming in your mind, just write it down in the inbox. I'll answer you at the end of the lecture, right? Okay, so strengthening. Start with the isometric exercises, improve the muscle tone. Strengthening means we are improving the muscle strength, muscular power, kind of power. So for that, we have to perform the resisted exercises. Resisted exercises means you should give the load to the patient and then ask the patient to perform the opposite function of that load. Like for example, I'm performing the flexion of the therapist or the next person will resist my arm or my hand to lifting up my arm towards the flexion or towards my body. So this is a kind of a resisted exercise or the resisted activity that we give to the patients or perform to the patients for gaining the strength. But always keep in your mind that start with the lightest exercise, with the lightest activity or the lightest rehabilitative program, because it might cause the worst effect if you suddenly give or prescribe the heavy amount of exercises. So start with the isometric exercises. What are the isometric exercises? These are the very light exercises in which the iso means the same and the metric means the length, in which the muscular length will remain same. No length will be changed. These are the exercises in which the muscle length will remain same, but the physical activity, or you can say the resisted activity will occur or will perform. This is a typical example of the isometric exercises. This is the quad isometric exercise, in which under the quad I have placed this roll of the towel and I have asked the patient to press this roll downward. This is the isometric exercise in which patient is comfortable as well as the length of the muscle is remains same. So this is the lightest mode of exercise. Always start with this if the patient, but it's depend on you as well, that if you see if you can give the patient or you can see that patient is able to perform some rigorous exercise, so you can also start from that. Otherwise, my recommendation is always start from the isometric exercises or the low exercises, because arthritic changes, some arthritis are very dangerous, or you can say the systemic involvement in it, so might you get worst signs or the worst outcomes of that. So that's why always start with the isometric exercises. Isometric exercise improve the tone, static endurance and the strength. Static endurance, not the dynamic endurance, because we are not moving the body into the whole range of motion, so it will improve the static endurance. And in the later stages and after a long time, it will improve the strength as well. Dynamic exercises like this, you have to give the patient any task or any activity, just like if the isometric exercises patient can easily perform isometric exercise, then give some complex exercise like move against the gravity, because gravity is pulling us downward, pulling the body part or the body downward, and when we assign the task that will against the gravity, so in this manner the body part will generate the force or enough force to oppose the gravity. So this is the dynamic exercise, or you can say a little bit vigorous exercise, or a little bit secondary stage or level of exercise that patient that you will assign to the patient or you will ask to the patient to perform. So dynamic exercises, there are a list of dynamic exercises. There are numbers of dynamic exercises that we can perform or we can prescribe. These are some examples that I have shown here, that I have you given here, that from line again secondary into the modification in the lying position, then sitting and sitting to the standing. So we are going from the lighter to the heaviest one. So the resistive, lastly, the strength will improve by the resistive exercise of physiological overload. When we give any resistance to the muscle, that is called the physiological overload, and in that response, muscle generate the extra amount of strength or energy and will and get trained by that exercise. And ultimately, whenever he or she perform that exercise or that activity, he will be used to, or he will be easily perform that exercise. So this is the strengthening strategies. These are the strategies to improve the strengthening. Endurance training, cardiovascular fitness, individual with the RA or the OA may be compromised, cardiovascular fitness may be compromised, or have seen that it compromised in the patients or in the individuals with the RA and OA. So, sorry. So, this is very important point, that we have to improve the cardiovascular fitness by the aerobic exercises and by some prescribing some cycling activities and some treadmill activities, walking, jogging, deep breathing exercises, right? By all these strategies, we can improve the cardiovascular fitness. Non-weight bearing exercises such as the cycle, ergometry, and the aquatic program may be used. Aquatic program, as I already told you, that aquatic program is the program that we perform under the water, because some patients cannot perform exercise on the land or on the ground. So that's why, because they are even unable to bear its own body weight, his or her own body weight. So that's why this is the suggestion, or this is aquatic programs or aquatic exercises suggested to perform for those patients. So these are the endurance activity, or simply you can give a light weight to a patient and ask to perform the 10 repetition maximum, means every movement should be done for the 10 repetitions or 10 times, and then move towards other. So this is simply the endurance training, because endurance power and these muscular components, muscular characteristics are compromised in the arthritis. Now the summary: teach proper posture and the body mechanics for the commonly daily activities to relieve the pain and improve the function. Yes, this is the point which should be keep in mind by the rehabilitation team or rehabilitative team, that teach the proper posture and body mechanics. How patient will stand, how patient will sit, how patient will move. This is very important, because body mechanics will get changed by the bony deformities or bony changes, and patient always try to be in a comfort zone. He or she doesn't know about the biomechanics, right biomechanics, or the right posture and the importance, or even the importance of it. So that's why a patient always try to, or the person or the individual always try to be in a comfort zone, regardless what will happen in the future, or you can say what deformity he is developing or she is developing. So always try to teach the proper posture and the body mechanics. If the external support is needed, so go for it and prescribe the prosthetics and orthoses, or some slings or splints, which are comes under the umbrella of the prosthetics and orthotics. So go for that and teach the patient, and ask them to, as well as follow your commands. Show you how to properly use the assistive devices such as the walker and canes. If you have prescribed and if you have given the walkers and canes, so teach the patient how to use that, because initially patient has no idea how to use it, how to walk with it. So always try to teach the patient. Recommend different treatment options such as the braces and the splints to support the joint. Shoe insert to relieve the stress on the lower extremities, yes, and the hot and cold packs. This is the important point, or this is the very common point, or you can say the easiest point, that insert the soft shoes or the soft any soft thing in the shoes to relieve the stresses on the lower extremities, or from the feet, or as well as from the toes, or the metatarsal or the metatarsophalangeal joints, calcaneum. So all these modifications will help patient to ease or to relieve the stress from those areas. Therapy to ease joint pain and stiffness, obviously, like the stretching, strengthening, endurance. These are the types of exercises that ultimately will give the joint ease and less stiffness. Suggest the modification to your environment, such as the ergonomic chair or a cushion mat in your kitchen to relieve the pain and improve the function. So if there is needed, or if the patient is worse and patient is affordable, because socioeconomic status matters a lot. So if it is important, and if you suggest, and if you think that it is important, so suggest the patients, or prescribe to the patients such kind of modification in the living environment, wherever he or she is living, in the room or the house. What kind of possible modification he or she can make. So simply ask them to make these changes or modification. So ultimately, your progression will be in a greater extent, and your patient will improve. These are the references. I'll send you the book, as Dr. Sarda has already sent the